G'day there guys, it's Connor here from Marquee Industries, and yes, this is the face behind the voice. I've finally made an appearance for you guys, so get used to seeing my ugly mug in the intros from now on. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you guys a quick update. So I'm changing my format around a little bit. Instead of two 20-minute videos a day, it's going to be one 40-minute video, and that gives you guys longer stories to listen to, and it gives me more of an opportunity to cover longer stories that I ordinarily wouldn't read in the normal 20-minute ones. So yeah, just checking in with you guys, and enjoy the video. Okay, today we're on Am I the A-Hole? This one was written by user Jazz Like Original, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdaughter she is welcome to go live with her mother full-time because I won't get rid of my Harry Potter-themed bookcase? I'm having a bit of family drama and need a reality check about if I'm being unreasonable here. I really need the perspective of LGBT+ sensitive individuals because the drama surrounds transphobia perpetrated by J.K. Rowling. My stepdaughter is going through a pretty tough time. The last couple of years have been really rough on her. She's been dealing with bullying at school, being held back a year, not getting along with her mum's new husband, self-harm and identity issues, lots of questioning of her sexuality and gender. We've been working on getting her a good mental health team of doctors and therapists to help her navigate all of this. Please know we aren't throwing her to the wolves or internet to deal with it all herself. I've been in her life since she was 7. We've always had a pretty good, though not terribly close, relationship. I've not taken on a parental role, but I've always tried to make myself available for her. Until last year, her mum had primary custody, and her dad had weekends with alternating holidays. Last year, due to the issues with her school and mum's house, my stepdaughter requested that custody arrangements be changed. Since she came to live with my husband and I full-time, there's been quite a bit of friction between the two of us. One of the biggest points of contention is my Harry Potter fandom, particularly the bookcase, and my supposed transphobia, due to my apparently wrong stance when it comes to the politics regarding trans issues in our country. I grew up in the heyday. So many of my childhood and teen memories are tied to the franchise. My friends and I were all really into it. We attend midnight book releases, dressed up in costume for movie releases, threw Harry Potter themed parties when we wanted to hang out, etc. In many ways, it shaped the course of my entire life. Those same friends and I joined our high school's botany club because herbology. That unlocked a lifelong passion of mine, and my career is working with plants. Over the years, I've collected quite a bit of memorabilia, many of which are gifts, and they have always been displayed on my most prized possession, a monstrously large custom bookcase my grandfather, a former woodworker, built for me when I was a teenager. I love this thing. The shelves are live-edge black walnut slabs. All around the casing, my grandpa carved beautiful Harry Potter-themed imagery. Owls, cauldrons, shooting stars, lightning bolts, an adorable little rat at the bottom and nibble marks from said rat, etc. It's both sentimental and valuable. The slabs of walnut for the shelves alone would be pushing $1,000, let alone attempting to value the hand-carved craftsmanship. The bookcase has always been proudly displayed in my home. It currently lives in our living room. During one of our family therapy sessions, my stepdaughter expressed that seeing my Harry Potter shelf made her feel really uncomfortable because of the author, and that she was really disappointed in me and her father for being so supportive of a bigot. I apologized for making her feel uncomfortable in her own home, and said that I would take down the Harry Potter stuff. So I packed up all the Harry Potter themed merch off the shelves. I made sure I didn't have the books or anything on display that said Harry Potter anywhere. I bought some LED grow lights and converted the bookcase into a plant shelf to display succulents. I bought some witchy but not overtly Harry Potter themed pots for the little guys so they'd go with the shelf. This was not an acceptable compromise for my stepdaughter and has remained a point of contention, with my stepdaughter hurling that we, referring to my husband, broke a promise by saying that we would get rid of the Harry Potter stuff. I tried to explain to my stepdaughter that, while I do not agree with J.K. Rowling's political stance at all, the media had a special place in my heart because of my childhood association with it, and that the shelf was very important to me because it was a gift from my grandpa. But she maintains that none of that should matter because in 2024 it is nothing but a symbol of transphobia and hate. At first my husband was supportive of me and my desire to keep my bookcase, but lately the arguments are wearing on him, and he asked me if I would reconsider keeping it in the living room, suggesting we rent a storage unit to house it in. After the most recent blow-up about it, I kinda lost my temper. I didn't yell or anything, but I did very firmly tell my stepdaughter that this is my home and my bookshelf stays. If it is such a big problem for her, she can always go back to live with her mother. I knew it was a low blow pretty much as soon as I said it. I quickly apologized, but it was out there. My stepdaughter has been on an emotional downward spiral. My husband and I have been arguing almost non-stop. I think it's mostly stress because he's at his wit's end with how to help his daughter, but he's becoming pretty mean and nasty towards me, telling me to grow up and just get rid of the frickin' bookcase. I know I was a dick for saying my stepdaughter could always go back to live with her mum, and I suspect that will be the main topic at hand in our next family therapy session, but am I really being unreasonable in wanting to keep my beloved bookcase? Yeah, I think it's kind of reasonable for her to ask you if that's what she prefers, but OP has no reason to oblige the request. I mean, the reasonings the daughter gives is so stupid. Does that mean every fan of Harry Potter is a bigot just because of something the author said? It's a slippery slope if that's the way we're judging people's characters these days. Let's go to some comments. Not the a-hole. Your stepdaughter sounds a little entitled. You compromised. You tried. Your stepdaughter should appreciate that and try harder to meet you halfway. Telling you to get rid of something your grandfather lovingly created for you because his daughter is having a teenage strop about it? F no. Is there room in your bedroom for the bookcase? So, while your comments were harsh, they were understandable. We went through something similar when one of our kids thought she might be trans, and it was a very challenging few years until she re-identified as cis. We tried to be supportive, as you have been, but every little mistake we made was leapt upon by her and her sisters as being unsupportive. We walked on eggshells for several years, not trying to offend anyone. At the end, we had to say, we're sorry and we fully support you, but you need to learn to manage yourself. Not everyone in the world is going to bow down to you to ensure your comfort. We fully support you and have gotten you the psychiatrist and medical support that you need. However, you have hammered us at every tiny mistake, and enough is enough. We are your parents. We support you, but we are not your punching bags. The point was made, and life calmed down. I see some parallels here with your bookcase. It is a part of you, and she needs to see that you support her and she is loved, but at the same time, you're not there for her to constantly beat on. Not everything you do is going to be perfect, and she needs to understand and accept that just as you are accepting her. Your husband needs to be on board with this as well, as if he is sabotaging you, then your efforts are doomed. If he can't support you, then you may need to think about whether or not your relationship is viable long term. Good luck, OP. Not the a-hole. Trans person here. Came out well over a decade ago. I've been partnered with another trans person for 7 years, and I'm active in the community as well. You are not the a-hole here. Your husband is. He is not parenting his own daughter through a difficult time and expecting you to make your life smaller to compensate. That is not okay. We have this issue with younger folks in the community sometimes. They come in and are very fragile around things like this. It can take years of calmly validating their feelings while also holding common sense norms for them to come around. The purity mindset is a tough one to shake, especially in the ecosystems a lot of young people are doing their socializing in, where cancellation is quick and brutal. It can genuinely wreck their lives, and I get why they're so afraid of it. I was bullied physically and psychologically pretty ruthlessly by my peers growing up, but I wouldn't trade it for what a lot of young people are going through now, in all honesty. It keeps them in a really reactive state. It makes it more difficult to develop critical thinking skills. It turns uncomfortable experiences into majorly distressing ones. Your husband is only feeding it by expecting you to not just bend, but to break. This will damage her long term, and that your husband only really seems concerned for himself in all this is certainly something. Also, I still enjoy Harry Potter. Authors are not part and parcel with their work. It doesn't belong to them once it's out in the world. Part of why it's very difficult to create. Liking Harry Potter doesn't make you some god-awful transphobe. There are tons of pro-trans Harry Potter organisations out there. And this is something your stepdaughter needs to see, that life is complex. It's that complexity that heals folks who've been in these environments. J.K. Rowling can be a wildly transphobic person, and her works can inspire groups to raise major funds for trans organisations. I've seen it locally even. Your husband needs to step up. Yeah, some great insights there. Opie makes an edit. Thank you everyone, honestly. Thank you for those who shared their insight and advice, and thank you to the people who have asked me hard questions that made me think, especially those who asked what matters more, a bookcase or my child. I've been reflecting really hard on what my bookcase means to me and why it's so important. I'm hitting some deep truths I don't think I was ready to recognize about how I really feel about my relationship with my stepdaughter. All in all, I think we just need to shelf things until our next therapy session. I'll see myself out. Good pun. Let's see some of those comments. Someone asks, can you temporarily put it in storage until she's off to college, then take it back out? That way it will be safe, and everyone can take a deep breath and calm down a little. Opie says, I looked into storage units when my husband suggested it. For the size and climate humidity control we would need, it would cost us approximately $7,500 to store my shelf until she goes to college. It's cost prohibitive. Another one says, why can't you just move the bookcase into the primary bedroom? It's 7 foot by 4 foot by 1, made of solid wood, and we have an L-shaped staircase. The only way it's going upstairs is if this is completely dismantled and rebuilt. I don't have the skills, knowledge, or tools to do that, and hiring out a task like that is cost prohibitive, especially because it would have to be done again when moving the bookcase back out. Not the a-hole. You need to put that bookcase in a room with locks because your husband is going to sell it or damage it. Opie says, my husband isn't an emotionally unstable monster. I don't believe he would ever do anything like that to me. I wouldn't have married him if he was that kind of person. And to another commenter, I have absolutely zero concern about my husband doing anything to it. He isn't that kind of person. He is incredibly stressed out about all of this and has said crappy things in anger, but this isn't some TV show where he and my stepdaughter are going to have daddy and daughter bonding time with a sledgehammer. I think he was just frustrated and worried about his daughter. Hopefully you can talk it out with him and he will apologize for the grow up comment. Opie says, that is my impression in regards to him too. I can't imagine how hard it must be to see your child suffering and not being able to fix that pain. I've been doing my best to give him grace due to the circumstances. It's something we will address when he has the spoons to do so. Another comment says, one question, who owns or rents the house you're living in? If it's yours, you can suggest that your husband move out and get a place of his own to his daughter's liking. Opie says, my husband and I purchased it together. We're both on the mortgage. The commenter says, then time to figure out who stays, who goes, and how their equity, if any, is split. Opie says, I don't intend to divorce my husband and throw away a decade-plus long relationship because he said one crappy thing to me during a period of great stress for him. Commenter says, if he destroys the bookcase to show solidarity with his daughter, what will you do? Opie says, have him pink-slipped. That is not the action of a reasonable adult. I would be very concerned for his mental state. I wonder if she made similar unreasonable demands in her mother's home or at school that led you to the conflict here. Opie replies, part of the issues with her home life with her mother involved my stepdaughter demanding that her mother choose between her now husband and her because mum's husband's political views, so this isn't exactly left field behaviour. Someone says your stepdaughter needs a massive reality check and probably different therapists. Opie says, oof, we're on our 5th. More on therapy. Yes, she meets with a psychiatrist as well as her therapists. We're in family counselling already. Couples counselling is likely to happen if there isn't a resolution to this current bookcase issue in the very near future. Info needed. What is your wrong stance when it comes to trans issues? Opie replies, I'm kinda middle of the road when it comes to the trans political issues and mostly take the stance of, I don't know, I have my own feelings about the issues, but as it's not my area of expertise, I'm not beholden to them and I will leave these big problems up to the people who have made learning about them their focus of study. Like, I get my feathers ruffled when medically uneducated politicians try to interfere with any kind of healthcare, like seriously ruffled. I believe that people facing gender identity issues should have free and easy access to healthcare and therapy to navigate those issues. I believe that society in general should strive to use preferred pronouns if only as a matter of politeness. But when it comes to things like trans people in sports or having safe spaces, I see both sides of the argument and refer back to my I think this should be left up to the people who focus on this and not form a super strong opinion either way based on my lay opinion. Yeah, that's definitely a diplomatic answer. Okay, let's go to an update. 1.5 months later. Someone asked if I could update this situation, and I'll try my best to summarize the past several weeks. My husband and I spoke about the situation. He apologized for being snappish with me and agreed that stepdaughter was being unreasonable about the bookcase. He ultimately agreed to back me about it, and he and I are just as tight as we have ever been. I once again apologized to my stepdaughter for the remark I said out of frustration about her moving back with her mum. I reiterated that our home is her home too, and she's always welcome here. That even though families sometimes fight and disagree, we are family. But the general argument about Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling and my bookcase continued to escalate for a couple of weeks, and then the discontent about that started to bleed over into complaints about me. She started to be more disrespectful and sarcastic. During all of this, we were still attending our family therapy sessions. Our therapist was pretty certain that the misbehaviour was anxiety related and didn't suggest that we give in to the demands to have the bookcase removed and wanted to just keep working on the things we all have been. Well, stepdaughter's disrespectful attitude hit a climax. She called me the C word and some other choice things within my husband's earshot. My husband honestly kinda lost it on her. I don't think I've ever seen him that angry before. He was bright red and vein-popping angry as he marched her to her room and declared, "You will not speak to my wife in such a way." This was probably the first time my stepdaughter had ever seen her dad angry, let alone anger directed at her. It left her pretty shook, like that was her rock bottom. We ended up needing to do a couple emergency sessions with her counsellor because there was a concern about her relapsing with some self-destructive issues she's been working on. But that incident led us to having a breakthrough. Her counsellor invited my husband and I into one of her sessions, and she had a bit of a breakdown. Basically, she was dealing with a lot of existential dread and a lot of fear due to politics and it being an election year. That ended up being an excellent opening for us to bond. This is going to sound silly, but I was able to pull up my social media timelines back from 2016, and I showed her some of the things I'd written or had shared with me back then. She was able to see that I shared a lot of the same fears that she has. So we have all had some really big talks about things like feeling helpless when things are out of your control, about disengaging from the media machine for your own mental health, etc. Things have been on the upswing since then. Before she left for her mum's this past weekend, she even gave me a Mother's Day gift, an adorable little planter that says, "Caution, mandrakes." I love it. I put one of my favourite props in it, and it's front and centre on the bookcase now. Okay guys, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, pretty good ending there, I'd say. All in all, good advice to stay away from the media. I feel like people get sucked way too much into that sort of stuff, especially on election time. It makes it really easy to become very pessimistic and, feeling hopeless about what the world's coming to. I totally get it. What about you guys? Let me know your thoughts down below. Anyway, let's move on to another one. Okay, we got a quick one from Petty Revenge. This one was written by user OKComputer, and it's titled, "Boyfriend couldn't stop liking half-naked pictures of other women, so I posted one myself." Alright, my boyfriend has started following a lot of Instagram women. Not regular ones, I don't mind those, but particularly the ones in lingerie and with their ass out. Even was watching their OnlyFans. I told him it made me uncomfortable and to stop, but his response was, "It's just Instagram. You're doing too much. It's not that serious." And he kept doing it. Well, I posted some pictures of me in a G-string bikini, ass out and all. He saw it and started freaking out, slamming doors and yelling. He was like, "Ew, you don't respect yourself. Girls who do that are hoes. That's embarrassing. I don't want my girlfriend doing that, bro. That's weird." And he's mad, like really mad. He told me to take it down and I said, "No, isn't this what you like to see?" And his response again was, "You're in a relationship. Why would you do that?" And I said, "I'm only posting what you like." After I said that, he started ignoring me. It's been hours and honestly, I don't care. I don't feel bad at all. For months I was uncomfortable and asked him to stop, and he couldn't. So yeah, now he's a victim of a crime he participates in. Yeah, that's a good way to get back at him. But honestly, yeah, I totally agree. It's totally disrespectful to be liking stuff like that when you're in a committed relationship. And the way he reacted after you posted the picture, yeah, I think that tells you all you need to know about this dude. I'd get rid of him if I was OP. Let's go to some comments. Normally I would say that's childish, but yeah, no, you gave him a different perspective. I'd dig it even further and say now other men like him can follow you and like your pics. For your next act of petty revenge, dump him, lol. Amen, leave that idiot. What are your thoughts? Let me know down below. Okay, we're on Am I the A-hole? This one was written by user Jason Slay, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my friend that I slept with his disabled younger sister? John and I are both in our 40s. He was my friend through middle school and most of high school. We hung out together, played the same sports, did church summer camp, etc. Basically, we grew up together. I also knew and spent time with his sister, Mary. Mary has cerebral palsy and uses an electric wheelchair. After graduating, John went to university while I stayed back home to work at my father's business and go to community college part-time. Mary also went to community college and we ended up hanging out a lot. John and his family liked the idea of me being like a big brother to Mary. Mary and I grew closer and we began having sex. We weren't exactly dating, but it was a lot of fun for both of us. Because Mary's family is very protective of her, we both agreed to keep our relationship a secret. Eventually, her family found out, and there was an ugly confrontation with me and them. They accused me of taking advantage of Mary because of my familiarity with her and because she was disabled. Mary insisted she wanted the relationship, but they dismissed her views like they always did. John was especially angry at me, even trying to start a fist fight. My father got involved and things eventually settled down, but my friendship with John and his family was over. I ended up leaving the area after I got my associate's degree and moved out of state to live with my mother. So, 2 decades have passed. I've stayed in contact with Mary, but only exchanged basic pleasantries with John and his family. They're still connected with my father, so it's just a courtesy relationship. 2 weeks ago, Mary came to my city and we met for lunch. It was a company event with her co-workers and vendors, but I still enjoyed seeing her again after so many years. We continued the evening at her hotel room, and I ended up spending the night with her. This Saturday morning, I woke to find a message from John. We've barely communicated for the last 20 years, so I was startled to see his name. Apparently he'd gotten around to looking at the pictures Mary had posted from the lunch and saw me sitting next to his sister. It was like we had teleported back in time to 20 years ago. The same accusations and angry insults got flung at me. He dredged up crap I'd forgotten about years ago. He ended his message warning me not to spend time with Mary. I was outraged by his message. We're 2 grown men, not high school kids. How can he say those things about me and his sister? In my anger, I messaged him back saying that not only did I spend time with Mary, but that we slept together again and he should get over himself. It felt good to retaliate like that, but I immediately had doubts. When I talked with Mary, she wasn't upset, but she made it clear that she would have preferred I just ignore her brother like she does. We're still keeping our plans to see each other again, but I realize Mary is disappointed by my childish behavior. Am I the a-hole for my reply to John? Not the a-hole for me. I mean, why are they so hung up about what Mary's doing? She sounds like an independent woman, and it doesn't seem like she felt taken advantage of like the family thinks she was. I just feel bad for her. It seems like the family thinks she's inept at doing basic human things or something. Let's go to the comments. Mary is able-minded enough to attend an out-of-town work conference on her own, but they think she's not capable or deserving of having romantic relationships. Poor Mary, not only does she have cerebral palsy, but she also has a family intent on cock-blocking her at every opportunity. Not the a-hole. Her family should stop infantilizing her. It's disgusting. Is she of sound mind and consenting? That's all that matters. My brother has cerebral palsy. I would never think to tell him what to do in his sexual life, because as an adult with a functioning brain, he can make his own decisions. Not the a-hole. My sister, who passed away a year ago, had cerebral palsy her entire life. Having cerebral palsy does not mean any sort of cognitive impairment whatsoever, though often people with physical disabilities are treated by society and their own families like they have intellectual disabilities as well. My sister had relationships, and while there is a higher vulnerability for abuse when someone is completely physically disabled, she made her own decisions about her dating life. My parents struggled a lot with this, but mostly because of their prides. Mary's family should have been grateful it was something they knew and trusted as a friend who was dating their daughter and sister. It sounds like they've completely infantilized her and cannot deal with the fact that she is a woman who has a sexual identity just like anyone else. Additionally, I, female, have slept with a man with cerebral palsy, and it was the best, most intimate, most attentive sexual experience of my life. Okie dokie, on to an update. So, after reading the comments, I am not the a-hole for my relationship with Mary, but my response to John was unacceptable. That's fair. I've apologised to Mary, and she's accepted my apology. That doesn't change the fact that I screwed up. For sharing intimate details without first asking Mary, I am the a-hole. I'll never do that again. As for the fallout of my a-hole moment, John sent another nasty message that got even more personal, including telling me some things about our past and my father that were very hurtful. Following the advice of the comments, I replied calmly and then blocked him. As I mentioned in my post, I will be seeing Mary again. I'm spending this spring and summer back home with my father. After his wife passed last year, he decided to wind down his business and sell our old house. I'll be going back there for about 3 months to help him with the business, fix a few things at the house, help him pack, and just hang out together. It's several decades of memories to be put away or donated, so we're taking our time. We'll barbecue and go to basketball games like we did when I was a kid. Mary and I are looking forward to seeing each other again this summer. Our weekend together was memorable, despite my latest stupidity. There's a fair chance John will come and try to stir crap up, but I'm not stressing over it. Mary means a lot to me. It will be good to have 3 months to enjoy each other's company before I have to leave again, this time for good. I'm sure Mary and I will stay in touch, maybe even see each other again in the future. Thanks for the comments and messages. I read them all, and Mary did too. So that's the update. Cheers. I'm totally shipping OP and Mary here. I don't know about you guys. Let's read some final comments. It's so common for people to think that any kind of impairment is an impairment to your ability to consent, to understand, to have sexual desires. Disabled people want sex and have sex and like sex. It's bad enough when strangers infantilize disabled persons, but to have your own family do it is even more demoralizing. I'm glad Mary has learned to ignore her family and their bullcrap. For real, she's an adult with a motor disability, not a princess in a castle or a perpetual 13-year-old. Is it so baffling that she knows what it means to have a hookup with someone and might want one? Also super against people's tendency to assume that all disabled people are just so scared no one will love them and that they're all begging for crumbs and don't know how not to settle. It's really ableist to assume disabled people all have the same insecurities and must not know how to manage them. Yeah, totally agree. What are your thoughts about that one? Let me know down in the comments. Anyway, let's move on to another story. Okay, we're on the same subreddit. This one was written by user ThatLastByUnicorn, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not giving my boyfriend a threesome? This is a throwaway because too much identifying info was on my main. I, female 29, met my boyfriend Michael, 35, at a show I performed in. I'm a theatre person as a hobby, and he complimented my performance and bought me a drink. We've been together now for a little over a year. His sister got married last week, and I was initially pleased to ask to be a bridesmaid, but also a bit surprised as she barely knows me, but I thought this was an attempt to have an excuse to also get to know each other better. Michael and I got into an argument the week before because he said that he wanted to entertain the thought of spicing up our sex life and having a threesome. He said since I was bi, why not? I didn't like the idea too much and said so, and it devolved into a petty Cold War, and he started to ignore my messages after he left my place. He didn't reply to me at all until the day before the wedding, asking what time he needed to pick me up since we can't go separate, otherwise people will gossip about us. He barely said anything to me the whole time we travelled to the venue. The wedding was fine, but at the reception he got me a plate and leaned in to kiss me, but I shied away and he got up to mingle. I started feeling ill not too long after, and 911 was called. I realised I was having an allergic reaction but had my pen, but still had to be carted off by the ambulance, and that's when someone else, who was looking for Michael, said that he'd left with some of the other groomsmen to a bar nearby. I called 6 times and texted that it was an emergency, as I was getting checked out by the paramedics, and again when they strongly suggested I go to the hospital, but he never replied. I was released by the hospital and called him to ask him to pick me up, but he didn't pick up, so I woke up my best friend and she took me home and stayed with me overnight to make sure I was okay. The next morning, Michael called me, but I was still asleep, so he left me a lengthy voicemail yelling at me that I ruined his sister's wedding and that I always have to make things about me. He came over to further berate me and told me he should just break up with me at this point, as I am dramatic and this is all too much. So I pointed out that he had gotten my plate, knew full well that I have a legit allergy to coconut, and that his sister had told me afterwards that he knew that the cake he gave me was the coconut cream cake, as all the food had signs saying what it was and what the ingredients were, as I'm not the only person with allergies that attended. He left telling me that he can't talk to me when I'm this way. I was honestly exhausted, so I didn't bother going after him, but his father called me to ask how I was doing, and after I answered, he then told me how much I'm hurting Michael's heart by blaming him, and Michael has been inconsolable since we fought. I texted Michael to ask if we could talk, but the conversation went back around somehow to the threesome and how I don't respect him, even in intimate settings, or want to hear him out regarding his needs and make things about me. I'm so confused because to me this feels manipulative, but I respect his father so much. I go to their church and he is a pastor there, so to have him tell me I'm in the wrong through me, am I the a-hole? What the hell? How do people like Opie's boyfriend get partners in the first place? This guy's delusional and he straight up almost killed OP because of his ignorance. Let's go to some comments. Tell his dad about the threesome request. That should end it. Oh hell no, he basically assaulted you, giving you food he knew you could not eat, and he's trying to make it seem like it's your fault for having a reaction and had to go to the hospital. And then before any of that dust can settle, he's still pushing for a three-way, even after you said no. Please, for your sake, cut him out of your life, because things will only get worse from here. Update me. Michael is gaslighting you and his father probably doesn't know the truth. He legit gave you a known allergen. You know he can be arrested for attempted murder. Go file a report. Not the a-hole. Being bi doesn't, I assume, mean you want to watch your partner railing some other person. He's an immature plank, and after he tried to kill you with food he knows you're allergic to, should be blocked and dumped. Yeah, Opie makes an edit. A lot of comments are suggesting that this was intentional, and I've actually never considered he gave me something I'm allergic to on purpose, and certainly not to use against me to leverage in our argument, but I think I may have to come clean and talk to his parents. I know them well, so hopefully it won't go too badly. Small update. Michael texted me this morning to apologise. He said the wedding was stressing him out and he had a lot on his mind, so he accidentally handed me the plate he meant for himself, not the one for me. He said he didn't know I was in the hospital and feels bad he wasn't there for me, but he left the reception with some of the groomsmen to blow off much needed steam. I don't know how I feel about it all, so I just replied, okay. He's now asking to come over and talk this out in person. Second edit, for any and all of you calling me stupid or implying I'm a child and why am I still with this guy, etc., just know you remind me a lot of him and how he used to put me down and bully me, and it's a real wonder of mine if you treat people in your life like he did. I suspect you do. Glad to be rid of him and indifferent about you. One comment says, Opie, be honest, have you, now that you're looking back, seen red flags like this? This behaviour likely didn't just show up. Have you ever gotten ill after a disagreement with him? Opie replies, oddly enough, I'm sitting with my BFF and she asked me the same question, and yes actually. Our first real argument that I can remember, I was down with a stomach bug for almost a week and he visited me and made soup. Then the only big argument I can recall outside of this one, he wanted to use labels really soon onto us going on some dates, and I didn't, and the next morning I was sick with chest pains and stomach cramps. I don't want to sound dramatic or accusatory, but since people have commented, he might have purposefully given me something I'm allergic to. I just don't know anymore. Not the a-hole. The two of you are completely incompatible. He wants threesomes. You want to attend wedding receptions without leaving in an ambulance. Opie says, okay, when I read this I was with Bestie and we've been drinking, and the scream I scrumpted laughing so hard nearly killed me more effectively than the coconut, Lamau. Okay guys, let's go to an update. Well, many of you were right. I should not have met him in person, but I did. He took me out for lunch, insisting he pay for it all, and it was incredibly over the top. He had flowers and a written letter of apology, but as some of you messaged me, his apologies dodged the point by way of, if I hurt you, or that you're feeling X or Y feeling, etc. He quoted some scriptures and said he has repented as his carelessness caused me harm. I wasn't much moved by any of it until he said how much his family loves me and how much our church roots for us as a couple, and I kind of sat back and realised that one flimsy reason I was even entertaining forgiving him and staying was because of the pressure I dealt with as the girlfriend of a pastor's son. It occurred to me that there were so many times I let things slide because he is the heir apparent, so he had the power in the social aspect of our community. Sorry, I know I'm rambling, but I'm emotional and tipsy. I remember just staring at him and saying it was incredibly alarming that by now he can't be aware of my allergy and that he didn't bother to tell his own girlfriend he was stepping out with the guys, or even that he was stepping out of his own sister's wedding at all. He then said it was really actually kind of stupid of me to eat a cake that had coconut, and implied I'm an idiot for not realising what I had was coconut. I realised then he would never accept that he was in the wrong, and thus there was no point. I stood up and smiled and said, "You know what, don't worry about it. Thanks for dinner. Good night." To which he replied that if I wasn't going to grow up and accept his apology, I am a waste of his time. He uses that a lot whenever we disagree, and it usually hurts me deeply, but this time it was like a Rolodex of memories flooded my brain, and I really suspect he's been deliberately making me sick whenever we disagree to teach me a lesson. I said I was done, and he needn't waste his time with me from this point on, and left. I then sent screenshots to his father explaining the situation as best I can, without blaming Michael for prior illnesses without proof, and I got a text about 20 minutes ago from his father. His father is incredibly disappointed in my immaturity and hurt that I wouldn't even give it until Sunday at church where we can pray together, talk it out and heal. I felt this way for a while, but I was able to say at this time that using religion as a token of guilt is low, and I'm no longer concerned with his version of God, as that version is a judgmental, cruel and heartless jerk, while the one I always thought of was loving, compassionate and kind, and I'm done. I was told by him and by further emails rolling in that I'm no longer welcome at my church until I reconcile with my true husband and learn compassion and respect for my leaders. So I guess that's it. I will enjoy sleeping in tomorrow and eating coconut-free food while lazing about my home rather than going to 3 separate church services starting at 8 AM and then figuring it all out from there. I don't know how to sign off, but I do watch a concerning amount of Charlotte Dobre videos, and she usually ends things with practical crap like, do your laundry or something, so I'll just say, live for yourself, feed your soul, and know you are enough. I certainly am going to put in the work to get there, and I hope we all make it to the other side content and filled with love and joy. And by the way, F you, Michael. I know you're reading this. I know you know it's me, and I hope your socks are always just a little soggy. Ugh, no one likes soggy socks. Opie adds in the comments. I forgot to add to my post, but I didn't want to bring the threesome requests into it. Well, I sent his daddy screenshots of some texts. If you'd like some drama, here are the top 2. 1. It was a night I sent him home after he tried and failed to pressure me into sex. He sent me that I was missing out and should be grateful since, quote, your body makes me sick, but my love for you is stronger. Would it kill you to be grateful enough to just do a handjob? And 2, on his birthday, I'd just been in the hospital after passing out from exhaustion and dehydration and went straight to his party. I stayed at his until everyone left, and I left soon after helping clean all but the kitchen, and he sent, you could have cleaned the kitchen, then, or stayed over for sex, then, you're a waste of time if I don't even get birthday sex, thanks a lot. And after both I suggested adding a third. His dad hasn't responded. Wow, that might clear the ledger with the father, but honestly, screw everyone in this, except for OP obviously. One final comment says, holy crap, and you stayed with him, you poor girl. No one deserves someone like that in their life. But you didn't say if you told his dad about him sending you to the hospital and potentially killing you, because we both know and the rest of Reddit knows that he did that intentionally. And if there was proof of him giving you that cake, you could probably send his happy ass to jail. And Opie replies, I didn't and don't have the best self-esteem, and here, as the only black woman in the town that I've known of, I've always known that I'm considered less desirable. Not saying that's right, but just knowing where I live. Been here since my preteen years. When Michael asked me out, it was like a parade. Everyone acted like it was a Cinderella story and I won a lottery or something. I have a friend who I've been texting today, and she's letting me know how dumb I've been. I've never told her of our issues, and is about ready to commit crimes, lol. I think I lost myself for a bit, but I wanted to leave the church low-key for a while because of my treatment, so that helps a bit. Yeah, well, it certainly makes it easier for OP to leave the church, that's for sure. Anyway, what are your thoughts about that one? Let me know down below. Either way, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.